Welcome into a brand new episode of the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports Chiefs Kingdom. Today we are talking post-game takeaways from Friday's season opening loss to the Chargers. Very unfortunate 27-21 loss in which Xavier Worthy gets injured. So we're going to run through a couple things today. We're going to get it all started with an Xavier Worthy injury update, and then we're going to get into our post-game takeaways. But I need to hear from you guys first. I need you guys to smash that like button if you love the Chiefs, if you're hoping for Xavier Worthy's health, and if you're hoping for us to get back on track this season after a week 1 loss. Let's go ahead and get right into this thing with some Xavier Worthy discussion. So on Saturday, just yesterday, when the Chiefs returned to Kansas City from Brazil, he received an MRI, and the results were not what we were looking for. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. Mike Florio coming in with the report on the initial diagnosis of Worthy's injury is a dislocated shoulder, according to Ian Rapoport of NFL Network. The Chiefs expect him to miss some time, although it's not clear at this point how much time. If further tests show the injury to be more serious than the initial diagnosis, it's possible Worthy could need surgery. And I got to tell you guys, that is the worst possible case scenario right now, not just for Xavier Worthy, but for the Chiefs in general. This is not the injury we needed. You never need an injury, but our receiver room is incredibly thin. We've talked about this time and time again. Rashee Rice is out with a suspension. We have Jalen Royals missing time with knee tendonitis. And now there's potential for Xavier Worthy to not just miss a little bit of time, but serious extended time if he does unfortunately need a shoulder surgery. And I gotta say, I was a little disappointed with our lack of a game plan to direct away from Xavier Worthy when he got hurt. A 170-pound receiver like him, obviously you want him to be key to the game plan, but you should have a backup plan if he gets injured. And when you look at the depth chart right now, there just aren't a ton of guys that jump out at you as great backup plans. We need Jalen Royals to get healthy as soon as possible. Like I mentioned, he's dealing with knee tendonitis. Juju Smith-Schuster has had some moments for us, but he isn't consistent. And Tyquan Thornton and Patrick Mahomes just are not on the same page at this point. It's really all coming down to Marquise Brown and Travis Kelce to lift this Chiefs receiving room. So I'm going to ask you guys, should the Chiefs add at wide receiver if Worthy needs surgery? Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking right now. Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'm going to let you guys know what I think in just 1 second here. And my answer, absolutely yes. If Worthy does need a surgery, which again, like we mentioned, could potentially even be season ending, as unfortunate as that would be, we absolutely have to add in the receiver room. It's something we're going to monitor over the next couple of days. I'll probably come at you guys with a video on potential adds if Xavier is ultimately deemed to need surgery. But I do truly think that they need to make that addition if they can't get him back on the field in the next couple of weeks, because this receiving room has massive question marks. And that leads us into our post-game takeaways, starting with the receiving room. I think overall, it took way too long for things to get going for this Chiefs offense. Patrick Mahomes was fantastic all night long, but Hollywood Brown had multiple key drops early in this game. He got going late on, but most of that 99, I'll say his box score, it's a little misleading. 99 yards, 10 receptions, 47 of those come off of one catch. So outside of that, he had 9 receptions for 52 yards. A lot of short catches, multiple drops for him, one of which was a key third down conversion that would have kept the chains moving for Kansas City. These are the kind of plays that Rashee Rice would have made if he was out there. And it's really showing up that we're missing our number one target and how much we had to direct away from Xavier Worthy. Something I talked about earlier, Tyquan Thornton seemed to try to fill that role, but you could tell him and Patrick Mahomes, at least early on, were not on the same page. They missed on 2 deep shots, and that was killer. Either of those could have been a touchdown. They both could have been touchdowns if we could have hit them both, and that flips the script of this game. Immediately, you've gone from losing to the Chargers to beating them by a touchdown if we hit on both of those. It was just a couple inches away from being a massive difference. So I think Tyquan Thornton could be a guy that could step up for us in the future. The stat line was promising towards the end of things, But again, you saw throughout this game that he and Mahomes are not on the same page yet, so that chemistry needs to build. And I think it could happen this week with Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy out of practice. There's going to be more opportunities for Tyquan Thornton to step up, for them to design things for him. And I think when Andy Reid and this Chiefs coaching staff have an entire week to prepare to be without Xavier Worthy, things will be better. There will be more designed plays for guys like Tyquan, for guys like Hollywood Brown. Maybe we can even get Jason Brownlee and Nico Remigio more involved. But I haven't talked about him yet, and I know you guys are all probably wondering why. Travis Kelce was surprisingly absent in this game. He had just one catch for 10 yards before he gets the 37-yard touchdown grab. And throughout it, I was just wondering, where is Travis? This really felt like one of those games where he would step in and take over, and he just never did. Time and time again in Mahomes' career, we've seen Travis Kelce step up, take over games, deliver them to wins in close moments. And it just hasn't been the same for him lately. You look at the last 5 games of Travis Kelce's career, 26 targets, 18 receptions, 256 yards, and 1 touchdown. And they're fine stats until you consider 118 of those yards come in one game against the Houston Texans. Outside of that game against Houston, he has been a different guy lately, not the guy we've seen in his career that can take over games. And I'm still very much hopeful that he can get back to that point. But I think it's time to ask the question, can we rely on Travis Kelce to consistently take over games anymore at this point in his career? Or do we need Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy when they're back in this lineup to be that takeover number 1 option for Patrick Mahomes? And ultimately, I think it's something that we're going to have to ask over the next couple weeks. We're going to get back into our takeaways in just a second, but first I got to show some love to today's sponsor, PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. And when you download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS, you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Pro football is in full swing today, so I've got a lineup built with Lamar Jackson's more on half a passing yard, and then we're looking for some TDs. We need Malik Neighbors and T. Higgins to find their way into the end zone, and we can turn $20 into $160. Tail me, fade me, do it at PrizePicks, because PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. They offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Getting back into our takeaways, starting with Jawaan Taylor and the offensive line. And Jawaan Taylor in this game was a disaster. The penalty issues that showed up time and time again for him last season have not gone anywhere. 4 penalties in this game for Jawaan Taylor. And even outside of that, it wasn't like he was playing well. We're going to pull up his PFF stats here, and you guys can see 49.5 PFF grade overall. That is abysmal. 71 pass block grade, that's fine. 43.5 in run protection, 4 penalties, most of which were false starts, and he gives up 2 pressures. Penalty problems showed up again for Jawaan Taylor, and I have to say, at this point in your career, you cannot be this much of a liability. You cannot be a risk to set us back 5 yards every single time you're on the field, because at this point, getting 4 penalties in a single game, that is what you are. Josh Simmons had 2, but he's a rookie. This is his very first game. I think we can give him a little bit more grace than we can Jawaan Taylor. And if Mahomes was not able to manage pressure as brilliantly as he is, if he wasn't able to mitigate these 3rd and long situations that our offensive line is putting us in, this game would have been much, much worse if the field goal operation hadn't been beautiful at the end of halftime to avoid having both of those false starts set us back. Again, we're down by 3 more points. These are little situations, these little penalties that can create huge problems for you. And it brings up a question in my mind. Where is Jalen Moore? We signed him to a 2-year, $30 million contract, and when Jawaan Taylor is out there being a liability, this is why you went out and got expensive depth on the offensive line, so you'd have a backup plan, so you'd have somebody to go switch to, and I think it's time to start considering, Is it time to make that switch? In my opinion, yes. It's time to see if Jalen Moore is a more consistent option than Jawan Taylor, because even if he isn't going to be as good in pass protection or as good in run protection, if he's avoiding penalties, that's all I need. I got to say, I'm pretty worried about things on the defensive end. Our pass rush was not good enough. Chris Jones wasn't his usual self. George Karlaftis was not getting after the quarterback. We left Justin Herbert clean on 70% of his snaps, and it showed up. He absolutely torched us. And before we talk about this more, I want to hear from you guys. How worried are you about Kansas City's defense right now? I want you to go down in the comments and scale it for me 1 to 10. Because for me, I'm getting a little worried. I think I'd have it at like a 7. I want to hear from you guys, though, because this is one of those issues where, unlike with the offense, we have guys coming back to replace the receivers. We know we're going to get guys like Rashee Rice. Hopefully Xavier Worthy's back soon. There's less of a foundation of trust with this defense right now. I don't know exactly what's going on, but when you look at Justin Herbert's stats, 73.5% completion percentage, over 300 passing yards. He almost had 10 yards per attempt, which is elite, and 3 touchdowns. He was dotting us up, and he got it done through a variety of guys. We talked about the Chargers receiving room being an opportunity and almost an area of weakness in some ways for the Chiefs that we could exploit in our pregame preview. And that turned out to be false on my part. Quentin Johnston showed up and looked elite in this one. And there's a chance, as a first-round receiver, there's athletic pedigree there. Maybe he's just figured it out in his career. But I'm also kind of worried that if our defense is making a guy like Quentin Johnston look elite, maybe we're just not that good. When you look at his stats last season, he was not anywhere near this guy. He was pretty weak overall. 93 targets, 55 receptions, 711 yards, and 8 touchdowns. But the biggest and I would say most significant stat for him was his horrific drop rate. 9.8% of his targets last season he dropped. If he can get over that, he could be a good player. But it's not the kind of guy you want to see torch your defense all night long. I really wanted to see Ladd McConkey. If you want to see anybody torch your defense, it should have been Ladd McConkey on that team, not Quentin Johnston. And speaking of Ladd McConkey, I was a little disappointed to not see Trent McDuffie shadow him throughout this game. That was something I talked about being a key. I wanted to see Christian Fulton play on the outside and Trent McDuffie go back to the slot, and we didn't see that. Trent McDuffie was still out on the outside. So something I think could improve this defense is kicking Trent McDuffie back into the slot, allowing Christian Fulton to play that outside corner role, because things were not working from a coverage perspective against LA. We've got to make some changes. We've got to improve in that area. And one other thing we've got to do is subscribe to the Chiefs Report. If you guys are not currently subscribed to the Chiefs Report, if you're a big Chiefs fan, I need your help. Go down there and hit that subscribe button. Ring that bell for me and let the bosses know you think I'm doing a good job on this channel, that you want me to take over full time, make this something I do every day here at Chat Sports. Let them know, and I will see you guys next time.